All right. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. This is the MSU Science Festival's Ask a Scientist Live event. This is our first event of the year. We have plenty of more to come throughout the coming weeks, throughout the month of April. I'm Catherine Hagman. I'm with the MSU Science Festival. I'm here today with Jim McGrath from Nature Discovery. Jim, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Catherine. Excited to be here.
Just so to start off, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself, about Nature Discovery, your background?
Sure. So Nature Discovery is what we call a Michigan-specific wildlife education company that I started when I graduated from Michigan State way back in '87. Hard to believe, been doing this over 32 years now. But, there are a lot of people out there and maybe especially kids who are really into what we're going to be talking about today, wondering how somebody gets started going in the direction professionally that I did. And I'll tell you this, growing up as a kid in inner city Chicago, I had an intense interest in living things in the natural world. But by the time I was a teenager, I was starting to see habitat destruction. Some of my favorite haunts to go to experience whatever, snakes, birds, whatever, wild things were disappearing. And I got the impression very quickly that society didn't know enough about what they were destroying. And I felt, what can I do to make the biggest difference to get people to not be destroying habitat and whatnot? And I'm looking around, it's like people don't know. And I decided right there as a teenager, I'm going to make it my job to get people to know, because people who know can't help but care. Here we are 32 years later.
It's incredible. Very important work. So thanks for doing that.
Thank you. I think so.
So let's jump right in.
Okay.
Today we're going to be talking about the 3 garter snakes in Michigan.
Mm-hmm. And we've got all of them here. I should mention at our little center, oh, right on cue, get in there. Our little nature center attached to our house out north of Williamston has a humongous zoo of Michigan native reptiles and amphibians we've accumulated over the years, and the garters are just a small portion of everything we've got. So I'm going to start out by holding up this DNR poster. Some of you may have seen these before, to show you all of the snakes of Michigan here. And I especially want to point out the 3 garter snakes. You might see the ones that look stripy on here and be able to pick them out for yourself. So let's see here, we have the eastern garter snake. Up here we have the Butler's garter. And then okay, there we go, is the northern ribbon snake, which does not have garter in its name. So we're going to be talking about these 3 and how to tell the difference between the 3. So let me grab our first snake. Well, it's coming out on its own out of my little holding pillowcase here. There we go. So this is an eastern garter snake. Now, one thing I would like to get clear right away, it's not pronounced Gardner. It's Garter, G-A-R-T-E-R. I think the majority of people out there might be mispronouncing that. And I tell kids, you're going to get it wrong on the snake spelling test. You're calling it Gardner. Okay. Can you make out with this eastern garter that it is a dull greenish background color? It is not brightly patterned. Okay. A lot of times, I think most of them that I see out in the wild, and these are snakes that you might be seeing already this spring, their background color is like an army fatigues green, not brightly colored at all. Okay. The snake is very calm. She's our working girl. This is a female. And I want to tell you a little bit about eastern garter snakes. If you see a garter snake outside, call it an eastern garter till you can prove to yourself it's one of the other garters. And the reason I say that is because I believe, from my experience over many years, I see 25, 30 eastern garters, no matter where I go, to every one of the other species. So commonality. just good to know. All right, so watch for that. This snake can get quite large, up to 3 feet, maybe even a little bit more with a big female, okay? And they can be found in every county in Michigan, including the Upper Peninsula. This snake can occupy any natural habitat, wet or dry, upland or lowland, woods, open fields, it doesn't matter. No wonder this snake is so common, all right? So let me show you this. Garter snakes are really active right now this time of year because it's mating time. As soon as it warms up in the spring, mating time for pretty much all the snakes as they emerge. I want to show you another eastern garter here that some people might think is a baby. By comparison, you make out how much smaller this one is than my big female. This is an adult male. The adult male only gets half the size of the female. So keep that in mind. This male is barely wider than a pencil. The female can get about 3-4 pencil widthnesses thicker. So we're seeing a lot of males this time of year as they're moving around, smelling for females, trying to locate females to mate with. So early spring, good time to find wandering males. So I'm going to put these two away. Hey, get back in there. Ah, slithery. Carol, could you tie that up, please? Okay. All right, now let me get out the next one, which does not have garter in its name. It is a garter that doesn't have garter in its name. It's called the northern ribbon snake. You would know it's a kind of garter right away because you see those stripes, and the ribbon snake can get as long as the eastern garter snake, but it is not as girthy as the eastern. So slimmer body for its length. Whoa, Carol, could you control that one? Okay, there we go. Here's a ribbon snake. What a beautiful snake. Now, what I want to point out here, hope the lighting is good on this. This ribbon snake has no green on it whatsoever. Only the eastern garter has a greenish background color. This is super dark brown. You might not be able to see this in this light. It might just look black. Super dark brown with bright yellow stripes running down it. Also, I think snake is cooperating very nicely. Can you see the color of its chin? It's got a bright white chin. Yeah, get right up there. Good job, girl. Showing off its chin. The other two garters have a yellowish chin, and that white, by the way, goes right up onto what we call its cheek, which is the scales that go above its mouth even. So bright white chin and cheek. Now the eastern garter will eat worms. They'll eat small amphibians. That's the majority of their diet. The ribbon snake, only found in the lower peninsula counties, is what we call a wetland specialist garter snake. You will rarely find a ribbon snake far from water. And the reason for that, this snake does not eat worms. All it eats is tiny fish and tiny frogs or tadpoles. That's it. So good reason to not be finding this very far from water. But keep this in mind, eastern garter snake everywhere. All right, I feel still when I'm around water, anywhere in the lower peninsula, I'm more likely to see an eastern than I am a ribbon. But every now and then you might get lucky and there'll be a certain wetland you visit where, wow, there's a ribbon snake, there's another one. You'll find a nice little pocket of them somewhere. So, hey, Carol, could you get that other garter snake out? This is that one is coming back now. This is a little cool factoid between the different species of garter snakes already. The ribbon snake has a long tail compared to the other garters. So this ribbon and that eastern we just showed you are about the same length. Now I'm going to get my thumb and forefinger down here by her anal scale. No, the bigger one. By her anal scale right here, and you could call that the end of the body. And I'm going to stretch this up. I need to back up a little bit. Her tail is so long. Whoa. I'll just tell you right now, without being able to get a ruler on it right here, her tail is a good 10 inches long. And by comparison, you can just, doesn't matter. Look at this, here's the eastern garter. Here's its anal scale. My finger's by its anal scale end of the body. Look at that. I had to back way up for you to see the length of the tail of the ribbon snake here. Okay, so this is like half the length. This is like 4.5, 5 inches, that's it. Okay, all right, I'll let you take these. All right. Okay, let's see. I want to show you this now. Remember we were talking about the that male eastern garter being substantially smaller than the female? Well, here we go again with the ribbon. We caught this one last summer. This is an adult male ribbon snake. Way smaller. Again, you know, if you're not aware of this discrepancy between the sexes, you might be under the impression, oh, baby ribbon snake. So this little one is probably half the length of that female. And again, not much, there's the female Carol's holding, not much thicker than a pencil. So again, wetland specialist garter snake only in the lower peninsula. There you are. Let you take that one. Okay, and then the third garter. This is the reason why I think it is the most critical for everybody to be able to tell one garter snake from another. This third garter, last 20 years is going through steep population declines. And if you can't tell one garter snake from another, or are not even aware that there are different species of garters, you're not even going to know whether this, declining snake is even around your neighborhood anymore. This one is called the Butler's garter. Now, I was showing bigger snakes before, but this one is an adult male Butler's garter. It's tiny. It is so much smaller than the other two garter snakes. Again, you might look at an adult one of these and think it's a baby, maybe of one of the other garters. This one is also like the ribbon, very dark brown, background color, no green. Can you make this out? It looks like it has this little wormy, I call it wormy head. Its head, if I can get this positioned right, looks like it doesn't balloon out from the neck at all. Its head just does not expand past the neck. That's a really good field mark for the Butler's garter. Now, this one's range is more limited than the other two. This one is basically only found in the southeast quadrant of the lower peninsula. So you know what? You don't get very far west of Lansing before you're out of the range of the Butler's garter. And you don't get very much farther north than maybe say Mount Pleasant or so, or Saginaw Bay, a little bit east of there. And then very restricted habitat. This one is only found in open, overgrown habitats, grassy, mix of grass and brush. I have never in my life seen a Butler's garter in the woods. That grassy area can be wet or dry, but in every case, there is open sky overhead. A lot of people who live in rural areas right around here may have a population of Butler's garters hanging on. And so we recommend, hey, look closely at these garter snakes that are around your neighborhood, especially if you know adjacent to your property or on your property, you've got that grassy overgrown habitat. Okay, this one pretty much only eats worms out in the environment, worm specialist here. So that's it. We covered the three of them. How we doing on time? Good. Gotta unravel it from my thumb.
Yeah,
okay, so.
Got about 16 minutes left.
Pardon?
We've got about 16 minutes left, so doing good.
Okay, so everywhere we go, people like to watch things. This is just like at the zoo. People like to watch things during feeding time. Popular feeding time at the zoo. Well, we do our own feeding times at all these different venues, and people really like watching things. I'm not sure what this says about human nature, but watching things eat other live things. But whatever it says about human nature, no judging, but I just find it's true. So, hey, we're going to take that ribbon snake out. If you can grab that female ribbon snake. And remember I said the ribbon snake only feeds on small amphibians and small fish. Well, we've got these vernal ponds, they're called, on the back of our property that right now are loaded with big tadpoles of this super common frog called the green frog. And we're netting these out of there regularly. There are just chock full thousands of them. And in another conversation, I will tell you why, in a way, this is a bad thing for the rest of the species of frogs coming over there. So we are perfectly fine netting these out of our vernal ponds to feed to our ribbon snake. So I've got a couple of them right here. Might be able to make out, there's a couple of green frog tadpoles floating in the water here. And I'm going to now bend the screen forward where you can see the surface in front of me. You're not going to see much of my head from here on out. Call me Nearly Headless Jim from here on out. Okay. Let's see if this ribbon snake cooperates. Whoops. Oh, it's coming right over here. Oh, whoa, whoa. All right, so it's got it by the tail. Now, it's got a very flexible mouth, and what it's going to do now, some of us might be aware, a snake can't take a bite out of anything. It's all or nothing. And so the snake has a very flexible mouth, and it got it by the tail, and it's going to maneuver its mouth back and forth, making its way up the tadpole body. Okay, so it's just adjusting its jaw right now. It'll start working its way up there. Okay, I might be able to just relax that. Okay. Sometimes the ribbon snake, if you make too sudden of a movement while it's eating, it thinks you are going to steal its food, and all of a sudden it grabs it and tries to take off with it. So I don't want to make any sudden movements here. But in the meantime, we were talking about the Butler's garter snake being a worm specialist. So I'm going to take this Butler's out and get it right next to the ribbon snake, and I'm going to drop a worm to it. Hey, Carol, there is a smaller of two worms there, if you could get that out for me. All right, so here's our male Butlers. His little tongue's going. Try to get it to him head first. Oh, there we go. Would you like that? Ooh, I knew you would. All right. Look at the size of this snake, and you look at the size of the worm, and might think to yourself, there is no way that snake is getting that big worm down. And the snake would say, watch this. Yeah. All right, so if you would like, or if any questions are coming in while these two are enjoying their meals, we could take some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. We have quite a few questions, actually.
Oh, good.
So our first question, someone's curious what the smallest snake in Michigan is.
There's a tiny snake called the red-bellied snake, and some people may have seen them. By the way, there are only 2 species of snakes in the entire state out of 17 that can be found in every county of the state, and the 2 are the little tiny red-bellied snake and the eastern garter. So there's a neat little factoid regarding snake range, and that's a worm and slug eater, just worms and little slugs.
Another question we got, someone's curious if these garter snakes will bite you.
We get that asked a lot. Sometimes people are like, hey, why isn't it trying to bite? Well, a number of the snakes that we have, that we got a permit from the DNR to take some of these out of the wild for educational purposes, good usage here, might try to bite when we pick them up, but I will tell you, with gentle, respectful handling, they settle right down. In fact, even in the wild, we scoop them up very, very gently, and most of the time, they don't try to bite. So you be nice to it, even a wild one, and a lot of times they'll respond by being nice to you.
Someone is wondering, they're curious how you can tell the sex of the snake. How can you tell if it's a female or a male?
So, it varies from one species to the other, but like with the garters, just the size and the wideness makes a big difference. Being able to tell the sexes apart. However, another way that you kind of have to get used to seeing is, in general, you find that anal scale where the end of the body is, and you see the length of the tail. The male of the species tail tends to be longer and slimmer than the female of the species. That being said, the male just past the anal scale stays a little bit wide past the anal scale before it tapers. And the reason for that is his reproductive organs are actually contained in the body south of the anal scale, and the females are in the body end of it. So her tail tapers very rapidly after the anal scale.
Well, we have about 9 minutes left, so everybody
Okay.
keep your questions coming. We still have time for a couple more. Someone's wondering, do snakes lay eggs?
So the majority of snakes in the world are egg layers. However, Michigan's 17 species, 10 of the 17 actually give birth to live young. And so it's an exception to the rule worldwide. Now that makes perfect sense in a northerly climate. If you go down towards the tropics, you will find, let's take, for instance, Texas or something. You look at the list of species of snakes in Texas, and I think they got like over 60 different species of snakes down there. You're going to find that the majority of them, by far, are egg layers. But here's what happens: the farther north you go, egg-laying species drop out. As you go farther north away from the equator, egg-laying species drop out faster than the live bearer. So in northerly climates, this is good thing for you to kick around in your mind, ponder. In northern climates, live-bearing snakes have an advantage over the egg layers, being able to survive and reproduce in colder climates.
We have someone asking what people can do to create snake-friendly environments on their properties. And I'm also wondering if you could talk a little bit about the importance of snakes here in Michigan.
Bring my head back here. There, I'll hold this while I'm talking about that. So you can certainly create good habitat around your yard or property. If you live in a rural area and if you've got overgrown spaces, leave them overgrown. Snakes need hiding places, critical. And so there are a lot of backyards out there where people keep it as finely groomed as like their living room, okay? And I go by some of these, for instance, some well-kept subdivision, and I can't help but think like a snake here, looking at that, seeing that there is no place for a snake who might want to go through there to hide. And snakes have a lot of predators, therefore, as well. And then the other thing you need to worry about is, whether there's enough of their food around. Having a wetland nearby helps a lot, because a lot of the foods that they eat, frogs, fish, tadpoles, and whatnot, are coming from wetland habitats where they're breeding. So, those are, the hiding places, and available food are the critical things. Was there a second part to that question? I don't remember.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the importance of snakes in Michigan, what they contribute to our ecosystems.
Right. We often have people ask the question, what good is it? Well, if you're talking about what good is it for people, we often say this: does a creature really need to justify its existence to serving people? The garter snakes are in the middle of a complex food web in natural communities around where we live, and so they are feeding on a number of these things that are common, common out in good, healthy environment. And at the same time, they are providing food for things that are up on the next level in the food chain. So we've seen birds like robins and grackles going after little baby garter snakes. So an adult garter snake like this one, this ribbon snake, she can have like 25 babies in a summer. Wow, they're not all meant to survive. In fact, by, the following summer, out of those, 25, that she may have given birth to, there might only be a few left. The rest of them ended up being food for something else. So, they are just, a critical link in, the complex food web that you find in any healthy natural community. Mm-hmm. And they should be appreciated, not feared. They're not out to get you by any means.
Let's see. Rhonda wants to know if blue racer snakes are still around.
Well, certainly in our neighborhood, not like they used to. We get all over the state giving presentations and setting up these exhibits where, wow, we hear a lot of people's snake stories, and there is no question across the state in the range of the blue racer, that's Michigan's second largest snake, that these snakes have gone through serious declines. There's a lot of areas where the racer is now locally extinct. Very often we put it this way with the large snakes, and these things can get up to 7 feet or so. If you are a large snake living in a world with people, being large gets you killed. And you can picture a number of ways why that might be the case. Direct persecution. People assume it's big, it must be dangerous, and might go after it and kill it on purpose. Roadkill is huge. So we often say, you're a little garter snake this big crossing a 2-lane highway in the country. You might make it across the road even if a couple of cars went by. When you're this big, crossing the road, taking up a whole lane out there, you are much more likely, to be hit and killed by a car. And that's the case with large snakes. Racers seem like they're hanging on better on the west side of the state. We would tell anybody who would like to see blue racers, go into one of the western counties, west of Grand Rapids, along Lake Michigan, Ludington area, Manistee. We see them over there a lot in wide open spaces. You don't see them in woods very often, more wide open spaces. Beautiful, big, beautiful snake.
Are there any poisonous snakes or snakes in Michigan that could be dangerous to humans?
Nearly any of the snakes that is grabbed or picked up, there's going to be the potential for that thing to bite. But we only have one venomous snake in Michigan, which is the Massasauga rattlesnake. Very stout-bodied snake for its length. I'm going to show you one on the Michigan snakes poster. There's one right here. Check out how stocky that snake is for its length. Very chunky bodied snake. And anything that's chunky bodied doesn't move as fast. So it's a very slow moving snake too. It's shy snake. The only way you're going to get bitten by one is if you're going after it. So you should never attempt to pick up any snake outside until you've, positively identified what it is. You want to keep your hands away from a Massasauga. That is a protected snake in the state, by the way. So it is illegal to kill one or disturb one.
What other protected snakes are there in Michigan?
We've got a few endangered species. So one's called the Kirtland snake. There's a species of water snake called the copper-bellied water snake that, by the way, lives in these shallow little weedy vernal ponds. But these are little tiny little postage stamp habitats, and they end up, if there's development around them, this snake has nowhere to go, and they're going down for that reason. The black rat snake, Michigan's largest snake, is listed as special concern in the state. We have black rat snakes breeding here. Those get up to 8 feet. And again, it's kind of the same story. It's a forest-dwelling, tree-climbing constrictor, but again, being big, spells their demise very often for the reasons we talked about, not to mention just forest habitat being cut down. So those are a few others.
Well, Jim, we're unfortunately out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today. I think there might be a couple of questions that were unanswered. For everyone viewing with us right now, Jim's going to stick around and answer any of your questions. Nature Discovery has an incredible amount of resources online as well that we'll be sharing with you so you can learn more. So thanks
All right,
again.
thanks so much for having me, Catherine.
All right, thanks everyone.